It's gonna be this way. Swim so free.
The Capitol Hill to
Soccer bopper.
New boy in the neighborhood lives downstairs and it's understood. He's there just to take good care of me, like he's one of the family. Charles in charge of our days and our nights. Charles in charge.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Whenever it is you are listening to this, welcome to another episode of Tune In Next Week. This is the podcast where we watch and review TV shows from yesteryear and talk about them for you wonderful, fine, fantastic people. And speaking of fine, fantastic people, I could not possibly ever do this podcast alone. My good friend Brian, how are you, sir?
I'm good, John. How's it going?
It is a beautiful day, sir. And I thank you, as always, for being a friend and coming here.
And being in charge of your life.
That's right, because I, too, am in charge of your life.
Yes.
Whether you realize it or not. But we are here. What the hell is that? We are here doing...
We here doing the Charles in Charge for you, the listeners here. What's the call, Dad, man?
We're in a silly mood this day, and that's a beautiful thing.
Highly caffeinated.
Indeed. We got some like Kona blend or something going on over here. I'm liking this though. This is really good. Anyway, we are drinking some coffee, talking about Charles in Charge. Now, did you watch Charles in Charge as a little tyke?
I did not. Never, not once.
No, never, not once?
Never, not once.
Wow, interesting.
At least if I did maybe catch a couple minutes here or there, it didn't register at all in my mind.
Interesting.
So I may have blacked it out.
I see. Yeah, I can tell you that I've seen a number of episodes because when this aired while I was growing up. This aired 1984 to 1990, so I definitely caught episodes. Don't know if I necessarily caught them when they were new because I would have been 3 years old when it first came on the air. But I definitely did see a number of episodes growing up, and I remember enjoying them. But I couldn't even tell you, from today, I couldn't even tell you like a particularly good episode. They're all kind of a blur. So it was kind of nice to go back down memory lane this morning. This morning, screw it, watching Charles in Charge, but. It was definitely fun. I enjoyed this episode. What did you think of the episode?
I didn't like it.
Really?
I actually hated it up until... Well, there are parts of it that I did like, but
okay.
as a whole, I was not I did not enjoy it.
Wow.
It was not an enjoyable watch for me.
Very interesting. So you kind of had a similar reaction to Emergency. If you had to pick a show to binge watch all day and all your only choices were Charles in Charge or Emergency, what would you pick?
Charles in Charge.
Okay.
I liked this more than Emergency.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I would say that because of the wardrobe, the storylines and arcs.
Yeah.
If I had to pick a better acted show, it would be Emergency.
Okay.
But I would Charles in Charge is funnier to me.
It totally is.
It's totally funnier. It's meant to be funny. It's a comedy show, and it's
right.
got some heavy moments in it.
Oh my God, yes. And we're going to talk about that a little later on, but like weight of the world shit right here.
Yeah. I got some things to say about that.
But before we jump into it, let's get all the particulars out of the way. We're talking about Charles in Charge, Season 1. Pardon me. Season 1, Episode 20, episode called The Wrong Guy, and originally aired February 27th, 1985. And Charles in Charge ran from 1984 to 1990 for 5 seasons over 6 years, 126 episodes.
Very respectable run.
Indeed. And interestingly enough, trying to find this to stream or to watch online has been surprisingly difficult.
It wasn't. It's not on your typical streaming services. It is available on Hulu.
And it's on some obscure, or I would maybe not obscure, it's on some strange places too. Like you can watch it on YouTube.
Yes, that was quite the surprise for me. You can watch every single episode on YouTube. It is. It's now granted. It's in that weird format where it's kind of compressed down, and you see like the theater kind of frame around it. But every
You could do
single
full screen, couldn't you?
Yeah, the video itself though, it's that weird compressed.
Well,
Right.
you know why that is, right?
For-
Unless we're talking about the same thing, it's because it's in 4:3 instead of 16:9.
I didn't know that.
Okay, yeah. So if you notice, like a lot of displays nowadays, this is our tune in next week tech tip of the day. If
I
you
got a
notice,
tip for you.
a lot of I bet you do. A lot of displays are kind of wider than they are square. Like if you compare like older TVs, they look more square, and TVs nowadays and computer monitors and so forth are more like wider and less tall, and that's because of something called the aspect ratio. And the aspect ratio is basically the ratio of width to height. So when you have current material, say movies, or example, or Blu-rays or anything like that, they are delivered in what's called high definition, 1080p, 720p, so forth. Those have an aspect ratio of 16:9, so obviously a lot wider than they are tall. Whereas older stuff, things that were on TV in the 80s and 90s, you're going to see them when you're watching them on a widescreen device. You're going to see them looking more like a square, which is 4:3. So it's a lot closer to being, the same number, being a cube or being a square. So it's going to appear like it has, only a little bit more width than it is height, but it's 4:3 versus 16:9. So there's your little tune in next week tech tip of the day.
Very interesting stuff.
There you go.
But
now,
yeah, you can watch it on YouTube.
yes,
But you can also watch it on Amazon Video, but
and buy DVDs,
by DVD.
and you can buy them on iTunes.
But if you want to stream it on one of the more popular streaming services, Hulu, Netflix, Vudu, you can only stream season 1 on Hulu.
Right. Now, I'm going to chalk that up to maybe some guy in an office at Hulu is ripping the DVDs right now, and it'll be available at some point. That's a guess, purely hypothesis. I could be completely wrong. But as of right now, when we're recording this, it is only available on Hulu season 1. So you may have to take to YouTube or, buy the episodes on iTunes or Amazon Video.
Cool.
Yeah. So I think it might be about time for a little briefcase action.
I don't have anything else before business time, do you?
No, I don't. All I have is this lovely thing.
Let's crack it.
All right. So as usual, this podcast would not be possible without a good recording studio in which to record and prepare them for. So we are thrilled to call JB Recording our home base of operations, where we record and produce these podcasts for you. If you guys need any voiceover production or any kind of things you would go to a recording studio for, go on the web, www.jbrecording.com, and they will definitely get you all taken care of. As far as the Tune In Next Week podcast, you can check us out on the web. Social media, we are on Twitter at TuneIn_Next Week. Our main base of operations, of course, is on Tumblr. You get to our Tumblr page at tunein-nextweek.tumblr.com. You can also get us on Instagram, TuneIn_Next Week. You can listen to us in a whole bunch of places as well. We are on SoundCloud, TuneIn_Next Week, iTunes, of course. We are also on Podbean. You can just do search for us there. Also search for us on TuneIn, which is a great internet radio service. You can go on tunein.com, search for TuneIn Next Week, and you'll get all of our older episodes and anything that comes out new. I think that's it. Is that it?
We went through it pretty quickly.
Wow,
but yeah,
I'm getting good at this.
you are.
All right, cool. So with that, let's slam the briefcase and get to our show of the day, which was The Wrong Guy, Season 1, Episode 20 of Charles in Charge. And I've got a plot synopsis courtesy of the Internet Movie Database, or IMDb, which goes a little something like this. Lila is asked out on a date by a guy that her parents do not approve of, and she must decide whether to go out on the date and betray the trust of her parents and Charles.
Yeah. Fuck.
All right,
Not keeping that. Not
No.
this time.
No, you've already gone through puberty. Okay. Okay, so there's the synopsis here, and we'll start right in here. Now, this show did not do a cold open. We just went right to the opening theme song,
Which I loved. Like get us into the action. Don't tease me.
I agree. I prefer the opening like that. The little sort of teaser openings and then sticking the theme song, 5-6 minutes into the show. I kind of prefer this style.
To me, it depends on the show. It really depends on the show, because if you can get the cold open and then end it on some kind of dramatic or comedic note and then go into the credits, I like that. But of the shows that we've done so far, no one has really nailed it.
I agree. But I think nowadays, with the age of on demand and streaming whenever you want and so forth, it kind of doesn't matter, because I feel like when the writers or when the producers of the show are coming up with their formatting and everything, doing the little bit in the beginning and then doing the theme song, going into the theme song on some sort of a cliffhanger or a dramatic thing, or setting the episode up, it would encourage people to stay tuned to that channel to watch that episode.
Yes.
And see whatever ads are coming with that episode and everything. But nowadays, that's not even as much of an issue anymore.
Right, because we're streaming most things at this point.
Right, and it's like you're not really going to channel surf when you're specifically going to Netflix or Hulu or whatever, or and you're watching something that you're intentionally tuning in for, you're intentionally looking at. So it's kind of interesting. But now I made a little promise, or I made a little thing to you before we started, that I would not gripe about the music. But I have to make a little bit of a gripe about the song.
I would agree with... I hope we're thinking the same thing, but go on.
The lead singer was not on pitch.
I did hear that.
So this was clearly recorded before the days of auto-tune. And if you go back and listen to the theme song, I don't have it handy to cue up right now, but if you go back and listen to the theme song, you'll hear that the singer goes sharp and flat all the time. Charles in charge. And so forth, that's probably the only evidence of me recording singing, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. Never going to do that again, but.
Oh, well, my whole thing was how creepy the lyrics are for this.
Yes, very much so.
For this theme song. It's catchy.
Shall we break down the lyrics? That'd be kind of fun, actually.
Well, the one thing, I don't want to break them down beat by beat, but new boy in the neighborhood lives downstairs, and it's understood he's there just to take good care of me, like he's one of the family. This is really outlining the
Charles
premise,
is.
who the Charles is,
right?
And the fact that one of the hook, I guess you could say, is that the hook, or is that like the main line of
Charles in charge of our days and our nights, Charles in charge of our wrongs and our rights.
And I sing, I want Charles in charge of me. Yeah, Charles. Take charge. Oh yeah, get all in there. Anyway, so sing it from that perspective. If you look at the lyrics and really listen to them, it's really fucking creepy. This guy is hired to be...
He's a nanny.
A nanny. He's in essence he's
a
nanny.
manny, actually.
As a man.
He's a manny. And the lyrics are, I want Charles in charge of me. Like, I want to submit to Charles's,
yeah, submit. But yeah. So before this weird ass conversation that we're having right now, were you thinking the same thing?
No.
I just planted that dark seed into your head.
No, but it completely makes sense. It completely makes sense. I thought the lyrics were just a little on the nose, but
Oh, they were on the nose.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just saw. I got a different connotation. Of course, it's an innocent 80s sitcom, whatever, but I read more into it, especially considering the fact that you have a teenage daughter that he's looking after, who's close in age to him.
Right, I was just going to say that. I mean, you figure Lila is probably maybe a senior in high school?
Yeah, some like...
Charles is probably a junior in college.
Yeah.
So it's like they're, the Manny and child relationship age-wise is very close. Charles was probably like 18, 19, and, she was 15, 16. So, it's like, it's almost like he's more of like an older brother.
That's what the show is trying to portray, but I couldn't help but think, like, oh my God, in a year or two, it'll be crazy because they're both good-looking kids.
Well, right.
Both really good-looking kids.
And I wonder if later in the series, does Charles bone Lila? Like, do they have to battle, their lustful feelings toward each other?
Maybe on set in the real world, I don't think that that may have been a battle, but I can't see them really betraying that on the show.
I don't know.
This is like a wholesome family.
I don't know. It might bear some investigation.
Yeah?
But, who are we to fact check?
Yeah, fuck fact checking.
Fuck fact checking. Let's jump into the episode here. So we start right out into the theme song with the pitch challenged lead singer. But we jump right into the kitchen, and everybody's kind of laughing and having fun because evidently Charles and his buddy are going to a bachelor party, which is being held at a place called Louie's Boom Boom Room.
Yes, the Boom Boom Room, which I am left to assume is a strip club.
That's what it's got to be.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
Boom Boom Room. Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, I'm not a strip club guy, but sure as hell wouldn't go to a strip club called the Boom Boom Room.
Yeah, I've been to quite a few.
I'll go on record. I'll say I've never actually been to one, but I wouldn't go to one. I would go to one that actually marketed itself as like a gentleman's club, something a little more upscale.
Yeah, I've been to trashy ones. I've been to upscale ones. I've been to about a dozen or so, but
You've never been to Louie's Boom Boom Room?
I've never been to Louie's Boom Boom Room.
Okay.
I would check it out just to see what's going
kind of
on,
boom boom's going
what
on?
kind of boom boom's happening. But really, strip clubs are not for me. I typically go because the people I'm with go.
Right.
I'm not one to turn down. I am one to turn down lap dances, though.
That's weird. That's weird.
Well, it's funny to me, the awkwardness of hey baby, you want to dance? No, I'm good. Oh, you sure you don't want to? No, get away from me.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to maintain eye contact.
Right, and apparently you can't touch. Where's the fun in that?
Depends on depends on where you go.
I guess. Okay. So anyway, Lila, who's the oldest, she is the oldest daughter, actually the oldest kid, because it's basically a girl and two boys as far as the this family. So she gets a phone call from a guy named Van, and originally she's like, "Oh no, I want to hear more about your Boom Boom Room story," and then she decides, "Oh, I'll take the phone call." So she goes into the other room to take the phone call. Now, I was annoyed by this. She comes running back in, and she's like, oh my God. Then she runs back in the other room, and everybody runs in the other room after her. Why didn't you just talk in the kitchen?
Yeah, I noticed that too. It kind of took me out of it. It's like, oh, everybody come into this room so I can tell you something that I could tell you in this room.
Yeah, because apparently I'm not allowed to talk about my plans in the kitchen. That's just weird.
Yeah, it was really weird.
So we find out that she got a call from a guy named Van who asked her out. It's like, oh, well, that's great. Some guy named Van wants to go on a date with her. That's fantastic. Now, all the while, who's the kid with the camera? Was that Jason Yeah, Jason was the kid with the camera. So he's been running around trying to catch people in awkward, like, facial expressions or awkward poses while all this is going on.
Okay, so let's
flashing a camera in their face.
Let's just break this down because there's a lot of characters in that are introduced in a short amount of time,
right.
And for someone who's never seen this before, it got very confusing.
It was.
So we have Charles in the kitchen, who is the Manny of the house.
Right.
His friend Buddy is in the room with him. They're pals, and they're talking about going to a bachelor party together.
Right.
Lila, the oldest daughter, gets a phone call, goes into the living room, and then we have her brother, a kid with a Polaroid camera, running around taking pictures.
Right.
Who he's trying to
catch people off guard for a contest at his school.
Right, and the grand prize, a packet of seeds.
Yeah.
Flower seeds.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you can do better than that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to rehash this, but it was very confusing sorting out who was who in this episode.
Right, and I think the better written shows are the ones that you can catch mid-season and still get an idea of who's who.
Yeah, if we're talking about sitcoms and things like that, where you have standalone episodes that you can sort of just pick up and watch.
Right. So he's running around trying to snatch pictures. Then right after Lila breaks the news to everyone in the other room that she's gotten asked out on a date, another kid runs into the front door just going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and runs through into the kitchen.
Just yelling.
Just catches everybody off guard. You know, right now we're focused on this whole, like, oh my God, Lila got asked out on a date thing, and then, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, slam, go in the kitchen. Like,
I hate him.
Okay. I literally wrote in my notes just like a series of question marks. Like,
was that Doug? That was Doug?
Douglas, yeah.
Douglas?
Yeah. So, okay. So now he's in the kitchen. We don't know what's going on with him at first. And right after this, now the parents are showing up, and they're kind of walking down the stairs, and, you know, the dad's like, oh, Charles, I understand you have a bachelor party to go to tonight. And he's like, oh, I remember my bachelor party. And then the wife goes, you had a bachelor party? Like,
nope.
Then he goes, nope,
no, never had a bachelor party.
I mean, why would that be a bad thing?
Now this kind of confused me as well, because I, again, not being familiar with the show, I knew that Charles wasn't a blood member of the family,
right?
But I wasn't sure what his role in the group was. So the fact that, or how old he was, really.
Right.
He looks, in this show, he looks high school age. To me, he looks high school age.
I would go with early college. You know, like nothing more than a sophomore, maybe a junior. You know, earlier I said junior, but I definitely feel like he's in college.
He looks younger than that to me. To me.
Okay.
But
that's
so
fine.
I was confused, like, oh my God, these clearly late 30s, early 40s adults come downstairs, like, oh, Charles, going to your bachelor party? It's like, whose bachelor party is he going to?
That's a good point, because, I mean, when you're in college, you're, what, 18, 19?
Yeah.
That is a little young to be going to a bachelor party, because you can't drink.
No.
Because drinking age is 21, so...
That's right.
That doesn't add up.
Well, again, he looks way too young, but he could be drinking age. Otherwise, how is he going to...
Well, that, and the thing is, he was, in another episode... Later on in season 1, he's working on a term paper, so that would imply that he's in school.
Yeah. Yes.
But we don't know what school he's in. Is he in college? Is he going for a master's? Like, you know, some questions there.
Yeah, he's definitely early college age.
Yeah,
he's working on some bachelor's degree.
Right.
Maybe from there, moving on to whatever. Who knows what else?
Who knows? Yeah, but just some weirdness age wise. But you know. So after that little exchange with the parents, then Lila says, you know, I understand that, you know, I understand you guys have a rule that you need to meet whoever I'm going to go out with just to make sure they're not crazy. So I get that. And then the doorbell rings.
Right.
And this is all in a space of, what, 5 minutes?
If that's less than that.
3 minutes?
Yeah. So we've introduced maybe 5-6 characters up to this point.
Right.
And Lila had a phone call minutes ago.
Right.
And then the knock on the door or the doorbell or whatever, and her date is already there.
Right. So clearly either he lives right around the corner or right up the block, or, you know, he might have been all Zach Morris and had a cell phone and called from, you know, the end of the block or something.
I literally wrote that down.
What, Zach Morris?
That he had a cell phone.
Well, his friend, who we'll talk about in a minute, must have had the cell phone, because he was the Argyle wearing prim and proper one. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, unless these guys lived directly across the street, or unless the rich kid had a cell phone, there's no way that they called 2 minutes later, they're at the front door knocking.
Yeah, I mean, unless one of them is sitting out in the car, the dude's inside calling Lila, being like, okay, I'll be right over, hangs up, bolts outside, and then they speed over to the house, in which case we probably would have heard the tires screeching. Right. You know, so that, time-wise, that didn't add up.
Yeah, so and then Lila says, I need to go up and condition my hair. Stall for me. Well, she doesn't say stall for me, but you get the idea.
That's the intention.
Yeah.
So we open the door. Who's at the door?
I was going to go, da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na. But no, it's not anybody from 90210. It's Matthew Perry from Friends.
Matthew Perry at 16 years old.
What is this? What role is this for him? Is this his first role?
No, third.
This is his third
Matthew
role.
Perry's first acting gig was actually in 1979 at the age of 10 when he was in a show called 240 Robert.
Jesus.
Which I've never even heard of.
Lasted for a pilot?
Apparently. But so here's Matthew Perry. sporting an Argyle sweater, and he's portraying a kid named Ed Stanley, who is like a, rich kid,
Clean cut.
prim and proper, preppy kid,
Well read.
perfectly, like, the dad was like, dude, you can have my daughter do whatever the hell you want with her.
Yeah, you can sex her right here on the coffee table.
Yeah.
So they answer the door.
That wouldn't be weird at all.
No, not at all. Take her. So that happens, and then his friend comes in right behind him.
And there's Van.
No self-awareness, wearing a denim stonewashed vest, headphones, rocking out
Bandana.
hard, just dances his way into the front door, just kind of twirls around.
Right. But what songs is he dancing to? This is what's funny to me.
Oh, you caught that? No, I don't know.
Oh, well, he had a couple of lines of dialogue, and he was just like, "What's up? I'm Van," But then he puts his earphone back in, and he starts singing "Like a Virgin."
Oh, man.
And it was so weird because, like, him, I'd be expecting to be singing, "Born in the USA" or, "Born to Run" or like some kind of Springsteen shit or, whatever was popular at the time, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, whatever. But no, he's singing "Like a Virgin."
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, you are a massive contradiction, sir.
He was described by everybody in the show and everybody around him as a rocker.
Right.
Who he has his own rock band
called the Scuzz.
The Scuzz. So to
Whatever
me,
the fuck that means.
He would be primarily into the hair metal bands,
Sure,
or the heavy metal bands at the time.
I would expect to hear him rocking some like Nelson or some shit.
Maybe not Nelson. Maybe not Nelson. Maybe Poison. Maybe Motley Crue. But
secretly, he would have an obsession with Nelson, though.
Secretly, yes. Well,
yeah.
If he's rocking out, if he's rocking hard, which he was to Madonna, you're probably right. He probably did have a hard on for Nelson.
Yeah. Because after the rain,
Yeah. All right.
So anyway, Van's a complete tool bag.
Yes.
And
no self-awareness.
Right.
Just dances around, tries to put his hands all over the artwork in these strangers' home.
Right. So he's doing his thing, and then Charles is sent into the kitchen to deal with Douglas, who's the oh my god kid that threw us off a few minutes ago.
With the Harry Potter glasses.
Right. So Douglas is in the kitchen trying to wash his mouth out in the sink. Now, my first thought is, before he even said what happened, my first thought is like, he drank something bad, or he ingested some kind of poison. I thought it was like genuinely something life-threatening, but then it finds out he got kissed by a girl.
Right.
Oh my God. Stop the presses.
Which, how old would you say this kid is? Middle school age?
Yeah. 12, 13?
I guess I can buy it that somebody that age, early to middle school, you're in grade 6 or 7, 8 maybe at the most. I can see that maybe girls may still be yucky to you.
Yeah.
But this kid, I didn't believe. He was overselling it to the point where.
Oh yeah.
I
wasn't buying a word of it.
I hate this kid.
Yeah.
I hate his acting. I hate all the kids in this show. I hate them so much.
Except Lila.
Lila wasn't bad.
She was the worst shitty.
Yeah, Lila and Charles weren't really that bad.
Right. So he's saying, "Oh, I got kissed by a girl. Oh God." Oh. And then so Charles sits down at the table and says, "Okay, tell me everything that happened." He said, and Douglas is telling the story. He went into the coat room to get his coat, and it was dark, and he felt something wet and wiggly on his lips. Now,
like a squid.
Right.
That's how he described it.
Right. Now, that could mean so many different things, but now he's scared of going into the coat room because he thinks this girl is just hiding in there waiting to attack him again.
Mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, don't you think this girl has better things to do with her time? Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. But so he's traumatized, and Charles says, "Well, you should have kissed her back, and then it would have made you even."
Yeah.
So now Charles is saying, "Yeah, you should return the favor."
And I like Charles's tactic there. I like
too.
him to turn it around.
Me too, because visually, Douglas was shaken by all this, and rather than just kind of being a prick about it. He's saying, hey, man, it's not that bad. Just, get her back and now you'll be even. It's kind of brushing it off like it's not that big a deal because it really wasn't.
No. And he's being paid, and his words later on in the episode, he's being paid to raise these kids, and which is something we'll get into that. We'll get into that. But
yeah.
But
keep that on the back burner.
I like that he didn't belittle the kid.
Right.
He didn't shoot him down, but he's trying to. He's not brushing the issues aside, but he's really like.
He's trying to drive home the point that it's not as big a deal as he's making it out to be.
It's not that big of a deal, and
Right.
trust me, one day you'll probably like kissing.
Oh, yeah.
One way or another, you'll be into this. So
It's like, hey, man.
do it back.
Hey, man, yeah. You got it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now we're back in the other room. And let's see what's going on here.
Well, we find out that Lila is actually not going on the date with Matthew Perry.
Right. Well, before we get to that, it seems like this whole section right now is a lot of back and forth between the kitchen and the living room, which, I've always found this annoying with these sitcoms because they'll do that sometimes. They'll say, like, hey, can I speak to you in the kitchen for a minute? And they'll leave like someone else in the other room. It's painfully obvious that they're going into the other room to talk about that person. And, the camera goes in there in the other room too, and you hear them talking about it. But, like, think about it from the other person's point of view. It's like, would you excuse us for a minute? We just need to go have a talk for a second. They're clearly going to talk about this person.
Yeah,
it's no one ever really like takes that into account.
No, and so they are obviously talking about Van and how much of a weirdo he is, and oh man, I'm so glad Lila is going out with Ed.
Right, because in the parents' eyes, they want Lila to go out with the, prim and proper preppy, as opposed to going out with the rocker whack job.
Weirdo. Right. So they go in and they assume that she's going out with Ed, but it turns out that does Lila say it to Charles first?
There's a whole big back and forth that, we don't need to get into the specifics of it. It's worth watching the episode to just see how this all goes down. But basically, it's kept from the parents until the very end of this whole sequence that Lila's going out with Van. And the parents think, oh, we'll give her a shot. We'll give her a chance to go out with them. Then the parents find out she's going out with Van, and they're like, no, absolutely not. Hell no.
No.
And then Charles finally convinces them to let her go because it's going to be a double date.
Be a double date. Give her a chance.
She'll be home by 10:30.
She'll see that he's not all that. Let her just do this. Find out for herself.
Right.
Dad's like, no. There's some great one-liners in here too that I couldn't catch all of it, but like you said, it's worth a watch.
Yeah.
But so they wind up saying, okay, Lila, you're good to go. Go out on this date. As long as it's a double date, as long as you're back by 10:30, fine. So while this is going on, one of my favorite things is the fact that Charles's friend comes back.
Yeah.
What is his name again?
Buddy Lembeck.
Buddy Lembeck comes back in wearing a tuxedo.
He's even more of a tool.
He is. He comes in wearing a tuxedo, singing Blue Velvet.
Right. Now, he reminds me of Dave Coulier from Full House.
I would agree with that.
His character
very
is
much.
completely Dave Coulier. I forget.
Very stereotyped.
I forget his name in the show, but the
Joey?
Okay, Joey, yeah. He's very Full House Joey, like just total comic relief, and that's his only purpose.
Have you ever seen the film Blue Velvet? This may have come up on this episode before.
No, I haven't.
Never seen Blue Velvet by David Lynch?
No.
So it's like a film noir. It's kind of like a detective.
I've heard it's worth
mystery
watching. I've heard it's really good.
It's very, very good. But for me, whenever I hear Blue Velvet, especially if it's sung, it reminds me of. It's a very dark movie. There's some very adult themes in there, specifically rape. So the fact, pretty dark stuff. And the fact that Buddy comes in singing that song
makes you wonder what he just finished doing.
Dropped my jaw to the floor.
Yeah.
But anyway, not to get too far off topic here, he comes in with this ridiculous tuxedo on where he bought this tux, and he also was sold a goldfish in the same store. So I thought that was ridiculous and worth mentioning.
Yeah, he said it was a $9.95 rental.
Oh, it was a rental.
And then
okay.
I wrote he paid too much.
He did pay way too much for that, but he also got a goldfish thrown into the deal.
Yeah, like, why? Why would a tuck shop and a goldfish be in the same thing? Like, what do they have, a special rent a tux and you get a free goldfish? Like,
that's what happened.
that's so dumb. I don't see the correlation between the two.
Is this a shop run by Screech?
Apparently.
From Saved by the Bell?
Apparently. Anyway, so now what's going on? So they leave, and now now we've established that Lila's going on this double date.
Yeah.
And we've established that Douglas has had his first run-in with a girl. And Jason, the whole time, which is the other little boy, he's been running around snapping random pictures of people. He's just a little pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, all that happens, and everybody sort of starts getting ready for their date. And
Charles is getting ready for his bachelor party, and then Lila's upstairs getting ready for her date. And
she gets a phone call. Right when Charles convinces everybody to let it happen.
Right.
Lila gets a call that says, "Oh, Ed, Matthew Perry, he backed out. It's just going to be me and you, baby.
Oh,
Van and Lila."
Thus, the dilemma of the episode. Mm-hmm. Should Lila tell her parents that now it's no longer a double date, or should she just say fuck it and go?
So she's getting ready. Charles comes in wearing a suit, about to go out to his bachelor party,
right.
And Lila drops this on him, and he's like, "No, you've got to tell your parents. You can't. If you don't tell your parents, I'll tell your parents, because it's my job to kind of corral you.
Right.
I'm being paid to Lila wrangle.
Right.
So if you don't tell him, I will." And she's like, "Ugh."
And then she's like, "You wouldn't do that to me."
Yeah.
So it's like, I can understand her position, because I remember being young and having, I had nannies growing up, and it's like, in a way they're kind of your friends and they're on your level, but they're also your caretakers.
Right.
So they got to they got to be looking out, and they got to do what's right.
So she uses some wordplay here, and she says to Charles, "All right, I'll tell my parents that the double date is canceled." And Charles is like, "Okay, great." And he leaves. But then she mugs at the camera and says, "But the double date's canceled, but the regular date is still on. What mama don't know won't hurt her," kind of.
Right, but I forget how this actually all went down in terms of this line, but there was this line that Charles said. He goes, "Well, you're only young once." And that was her justification.
Well, he says that to Buddy, who comes in with his ridiculous tux and says, "Come on, Charles, what are you doing? The night's ticking away. You're only young once."
Right.
And
Lila uses that as her justification
right.
to rebel, and instead of doing the right thing and being on the up and up and telling everybody and being honest, she says, "Well, you're only young once."
Right. So as Charles is arguing with Lila about whether she should tell her parents or not, Buddy comes in, says that line, drags Charles out while Charles screams back, "You should tell your parents!" And then she says, "All right, I'll tell them the double date's canceled."
Yeah.
"But you're only young once."
Yeah.
So, yeah, that happens. We then flash forward to the end of the night, where the parents are pacing back and forth. Am I right? Is that what happens next?
We missed one little thing.
What's that?
And this happened right before the "you're only young once" bit. Charles was in his room, and Douglas came in wearing a Cobra head mask, and he's like, "Hey, if I wear this, then girls will never kiss me." And Charles is like, "Nah, man, you gotta just kind of shrug that off. Don't worry about it." And then Douglas goes, "Can you talk me through how to kiss?"
Right.
And Charles is like, "Okay." And he kind of puts the snakehead mask on his arm, and he says, "Pretend this is the girl." And you just kind of lean your head in, give her a little kiss. And, it's like, I get that this is really cute and all, but, like, wouldn't this be a better conversation for the kid to have with his own father?
Yeah, but Charles is more on his level. It's like you were saying. He's not as old as his dad.
Right.
He's still, young. He feels like he can trust Charles to keep these things to himself.
Yeah.
If he tells his dad, his mom might get involved.
It might get really weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it might get really weird.
Yeah. But then Lila walks in and sees all this and then laughs hysterically. So
Yeah.
I just thought that scene bared mention.
It did. I blacked it out, though, because I fucking hate Douglas.
So that was right before the scene we just talked about with the, with the early young ones. So now at this point, it is later on in the evening, and the parents are basically freaking out. It's 11:15, so 45 minutes late, and no sign or no word from Lila, so we don't know what's going on. And Charles gets back from the bachelor party, and the dad's like, "Oh, it must have been a bad party if you're home early," and he says, "No, it was great until it got raided by the bride."
Yes.
So I thought that was kind of funny. But and then he said, "Where's Lila?" And then Charles goes, "Oh, you let her go anyway." And right when he said that, I wrote in all caps, "Oops."
Right. I liked it because Charles assumes the best of Lila as well. He should.
Trusted her.
He trusted. Well,
he trusted her.
I don't. This is really what I want to get into.
Yeah.
He trusts her to tell her parents. However, I think he still should have told the parents.
I agree.
He was being dragged out by Buddy, but that's not to say, "Hey, Buddy, I'm coming with you. Give me
2 minutes.
Give me 2 minutes to tell them and maybe put it to them in a way, hey, Lila's double date was canceled. It's only a single date. I told her to tell you. See what she does. See you later. I got to go to a bachelor party."
Right. Because think about it. Charles's job, his whole job, the reason he's there is to look after the kids.
Yes.
And he's putting a little bit too much trust in her by not telling her, by not saying anything to the parents. And we get into this in a couple of minutes with the dialogue between all of them, but he's still, I believe, I agree with you. He still should have should have had said something, or at least planted some kind of a seed and said, you might want to double check with Lila on the status of that date tonight.
Right.
Don't just leave it completely in Lila's hands because Lila's still a kid.
Yeah, I guess she's still. I mean, yes, she's a kid. She's not 18, but
right.
But yeah, she's a kid, but she's getting older. And this, her dad, they both make great points.
Right.
The dad makes great points. Charles makes great points.
So let's get into this whole argument. So basically, we come to find out that Charles said, "Oh, you let her go anyway."
Yes.
And they're like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, the double date was canceled. She told you."
Right.
Then Charles is like severely backpedaling because the parents are like, "No, she didn't tell us." And Charles is making up this whole story about, "Oh, she came downstairs and she told you and you let her go anyway."
This is what should have happened, though.
That pissed me off because I was like, "Charles, now you're just lying."
No, he's not lying.
She never said anything to her parents.
Right, but
Charles told the parents she did tell them. You didn't catch that?
I know, I caught that, but this is his assumption. He's not making a story up. This is what he assumed happened, which is what should have happened. Lila should have come down, told her parents, because Charles told her to. If you don't tell your parents, Lila, I will. And she's like, all right, Charles, the double date is canceled. And then Charles leaves.
Right.
And Charles assumes she went down, told her parents, and then the parents let her go anyway.
Okay. Because I seem to recall, and maybe we might want to watch the scene again, I seem to recall Charles saying, she told you, and then the parents go, no, that's not what happened.
Right, because he's assuming she told them. You're absolutely right. You're saying it just as it happened, but it's not him making things up. He is in a way, but he's only making things up in the way that
he understands the way
that it should have happened.
Right.
What really happened is that, hey, mom and dad, double date's still on. I'll see you at 10:30, and she leaves and doesn't come back till 11:30.
Right.
So, and the dad freaks out as well. He should have.
Sure.
As late as she is, she should have been responsible enough. Hey, even if the double date wasn't canceled.
She could have called and said, hey, we're running a little late. Is it cool if I stay out another hour?
She knows she's coming home at 11:30.
Right.
She knows she's coming home late. Why is she not responsible enough to force the date to end so she can be back at 10:30? Why is she breaking her curfew like this?
Right.
She is shooting herself in the foot because A, no double date. B, this is a scumbag of a person that she's out with that
Right.
she knows her parents are uncomfortable with. And C, you're almost intentionally drawing attention to yourself by coming home this fucking late.
Right.
So Dad is totally justified to be freaked out and mad. What if she
Right.
got murdered? What if she was in a car accident?
Right.
This, that, and the third. All of this that happened.
And think about now the position that Charles is in too, because Charles didn't uphold his end of the bargain in what they're paying him for, and that's mentioned in this scene.
Yep.
Because the dad says, "I'm paying you to help raise my kids," you know, and the dad said something really, really important. He said, "I raised my daughter for 17 years. I guess she's 17 or 16 years. You've only been here for 8 months."
Yes.
And I was like, boom.
Yes.
Mic drop on the dad. The dad does a hell of a mic drop.
He does. He
He's
does.
like, you are not here to talk to me about responsibility or trust.
Right.
You're here to do a job. You screwed up.
I don't think that Charles was trying to turn it around on the dad.
No, he wasn't. He
wa-
wasn't. But the dad was in his right to say what he said.
Absolutely. And I think everybody said exactly the right thing. Everybody
Right.
said what they should have said.
Right.
I don't think anybody was in the wrong here except maybe Charles. Charles was in the wrong for...
He was, but he did make a good point because he was saying that, he was saying that the dad does need to have some trust for her, or she's never going to, there has to be some element of trust in order for their relationship to build, because the paradigm of the relationship between the parents and the kid changes significantly as the kid gets older. When the kid is a lot younger, the parents have to be more parental, and they have to like a mother with her cubs. They have to hold them close and keep them safe and protect them. But when the kids get older, the parents have to loosen their grip a little bit.
Yes. They've got to become their own people.
Right.
Slowly, but...
Right. And they have to loosen their grip a little bit, but they can be, instead of, smothering them and keeping them very close, they can become more like sage guides and provide wisdom and provide advice and things like that in a different capacity.
Should Charles have been fired as a result of this?
No.
I disagree.
I don't think he should have been fired, but I think he should have been docked pay or something. But then again, how can you do that? Because that's like putting a price on his daughter. You screwed up and my daughter was put in danger. I'm docking you 3 days pay. Why not 4 days? Why not a week? So I guess that makes sense. How could he have been reprimanded for that?
If this had a different ending, if she got in a car accident and was paralyzed or, God forbid, raped and murdered,
then I think he would have been fired.
But that's because of Charles's lapse in judgment. The potential for this other things could have happened. So This lapse of judgment is forgivable because it had a happy ending. Well, not a happy ending, but it had everybody turned out all right. But the potential was there for something awful to happen. And if he lapsed in judgment here, who's to say he doesn't lapse in judgment when it comes time for Douglas to do something like this, or the other kid?
Right.
So the
interesting thing is what we're talking about is not revealed in the show. We don't know what happens to Charles.
Oh, well, I mean, the 4 more seasons happened, so I know that
so
he
survived to live to fight another day and live to take care of the kids another day. But we don't know if the parents had a stern talking to with him. We don't know if they did dock him pay. We don't know what happened. But based on the way that they all behaved as a family unit, you could see that Charles was visibly shaken by this and he was affected by it.
He should be, yeah.
He's clearly not there just to do the job. He's there and he actually has a genuine love for the kids. He told the parents, he's like, I love your children too.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it was clear to see that everyone learned their lesson because this was done so in such a heavy manner, which we'll get to in a minute. But I don't know what kind of punishment or was there, they were given to Charles. I don't know if there was any.
the fact that he was only there for 8 months.
Yeah.
For me, that's a short amount of time to be a Manny for these kids, and
Sure.
because of the potential for a catastrophe to happen as a result of his lapse of judgment, I would say is grounds for termination, because it's only 8 months in, and if you're lapsing this way, if you're not telling us things that you know about our daughter,
Right.
then who's to say what else you're going to keep from us?
Right.
So if this were 3 years in, 2 years in, maybe
It'd be different.
It would be a different story. But
Right.
only 8 months in from the father's admission, I would have fired Charles. This would be the series finale.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be the series finale, 16 episodes in or whatever this was.
Yeah.
But, okay, well, that's cool. We have differing opinions on that, but that's fine. It's the beauty of the podcast.
I love it, though. I love it.
Yeah. So then she comes home. Everybody's all happy that she's home and everything. And
First thing they do is hug her.
right. And
So glad you're okay.
right. And Charles is basically looks at her like, "What the hell did you do? You just threw me under the bus."
Yep.
And Charles is like, "You violated my trust," and he just walks off and slams the door to his room.
What does she say about the date, though?
She said, she says that Van is a jerk. And that Van basically took him to his band's practice, where they played the same song over and over for 5 hours.
Right.
That is totally grounds for not dating him again. But she was able to find that out on her own.
Yeah, and maybe this just could be the actress, but I didn't feel that it was genuine. I didn't
either.
Feel like that she really hated him. I feel like that she was just saying that because she was late.
Yeah.
And she just needed to assure her parents the fact that I'm not seeing this guy again.
Right.
But I don't think she had a bad time. I didn't believe that she had a bad time and she hated Van.
Yeah,
but that may just been the actress's delivery.
Yeah, I didn't feel much emotion there either, but it like you said, it may have just been like a whole, I'm just going to say whatever to try to ease the tension of the moment kind of thing.
Yeah, and this is on top of the heaviness that we just like the
entire episode got incredibly heavy from the moment the parents were griping over her not being home till the end.
Yeah, the conversation between Charles and the dad really was like, oh my god. The acting I thought was top notch. It was very good. It was very good.
Very believable.
And then Lila comes home and just like, oh, I didn't like him. He played the same song for 5 hours. And there was a little bit of a laugh track over that. And I was like, oh, that's just kind of...
But you could still feel the
down.
tension in the room. The tension was palpable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Charles was not...
He was pissed.
Pissed, yeah.
Charles was pissed. Because...
Fuck yeah, Scott Baio.
Yeah. So he goes off into his room, and the dad basically says to the girl, "You're grounded for 3 weeks. No stereo, no TV. Your life is eating, sleeping, and homework."
Yes.
Which, for a teenager, that sucks.
It does suck. But 3 weeks is nothing. I've been grounded for far longer for far less.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents aren't... I grew up in a fairly typical, normal household.
Yeah.
But when it came to schoolwork and breaking curfew and things like that, they were a bit more severe. I was grounded for whole semesters for things like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I guess all parents are different.
Yeah.
When it comes to this kind of thing. But so then the last scene, basically Lila goes to Charles's room, and he's laying in there basically like he just kind of looked deflated. He's laying on his bed basically going like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. He got sideswiped by Lila.
Yeah. And she comes in and she's like, "Can you look at me when I talk to you?" And he just kind of looks at her. "Don't look at me like that." Like Lila pissed me off, for what she did. And, in this scene, basically, we find out that, Charles can't trust her anymore.
No, I liked how this was handled up until the very end. I would have handled it the same way, but maybe I wouldn't have let her into my room even. Like, how can I trust you?
Right. Well, he said he had this line, and I wrote this down because this was Charles's mic drop. He goes, "You hurt in one night what it took all the time we've known each other to build up."
Yes, I remember that.
Mic drop.
I loved it. Yeah.
Scott Baio's mic drop of the evening.
It was great.
Like that is the biggest verbal slap in the face if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, and she deserved that.
You hurt in one night what it took all the time we've known each other to build up. Mm-hmm. And then at the very end,
and boo-hoo.
And then he's like, your parents didn't want to punish you. What they wanted to do was hug you when you came in the door. Mm-hmm. And then she goes, Charles, can I hug you? And he goes, please. Then they hug and then roll credits. Like, I would not have done that. I would have said, not now.
Yeah.
You know, because she horribly violated his trust.
Yes.
You know, and I mean, for the purposes of it being a sitcom, I can see how they said, well, we got to end it on a light note, despite how fucking heavy it was, you know. So it looked like all was forgiven and everything is hunky-dory, but I would not have let that end that quickly. I would,
He could possibly have been fired over breakfast the next morning.
Exactly.
We didn't want to kick you out tonight because our daughter had the potential to be raped and murdered.
Right.
But, you know, finish your pancakes and get the hell out.
Things.
Yeah, get the hell out. Pack your shit and go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would have said, you know, no, you can't hug me right now. I need you to leave the room.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, maybe the next day, because I mean, I'm a firm believer in letting cooler heads prevail. So, sleep on it, go to bed, wake up with a clear head, talk about it, then maybe, you know, establish a plan. You know, she can come and, you know, if it was me, if it was John in charge, she can come to me in the morning and say, listen,
John in charge.
That's right. Which happens to be the wrong theme song, but that's fine.
Oh, whatever.
So she can come to me in the morning and, you know, say, listen, I really thought about it. I learned that I really need to take your trust very seriously, and I'm very sorry. And I'd say, well, I appreciate that, and you know, let's just make sure you remember this moving forward. You know, then I might give her a hug and say, you know, I'm just glad you're okay, but not in the moment the way it was done yesterday.
I would have done everything that Charles did up until the tears started falling when he had that line that you've destroyed everything or you've hurt everything.
Yeah.
We took this line, and I'll talk to you more about it tomorrow. You can leave my room now.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't hug it out.
Yeah, fuck that shit. And speaking of that, roll credits.
Yeah, roll credits. That was
that's the end. So I am dying to hear your highlights and lowlights because I have, you know, I'd like to go first if that's okay.
Of course, yeah. Go for it.
My highlight is also my lowlight.
Interesting.
I'm doing a twofer.
Go.
So my highlight and lowlight is the positive message of trust, because this whole episode was basically about trust and how you really need to take care of it, and you really need to value it and understand it when you're in a family unit like this, or even in any relationship that you're in. It's a fine line to walk when you have people, you know, talking to you about trust and how you need to be trusting someone, or how you're giving you advice on how you should be trusting someone, whether or not you think that person's advice is warranted. My low light, though, is how heavy this episode was. They really hammered it into you. And I felt like it was a little... the episode ended in such a way that left me conflicted. It left me wanting more, and it left me feeling down, not necessarily feeling good. Like, they hugged it out at the end, but like we were talking about a minute ago, I kind of disagree with how quickly this whole thing was resolved, because it's a big deal. So my highlight and low light is the heaviness of the message.
So your highlight is the message,
and the low light,
is how it left you feeling at the end. You wanted to be ended on a lighter note.
I would have wanted it to end on a lighter note or more realistic. You know, let it go. You know, let Lila marinate a little bit. You know, like, no, Charles, don't forgive her on the spot. You know, so I would have wanted it to be a little more realistic.
Your low light is my highlight. I can't believe that. Yeah. So
go on.
The scene with the parents and Charles when he comes home from the bachelor party and they find out about the double date being canceled.
Right.
All of that heaviness, I enjoyed that. I thought it was well acted.
Yeah.
It actually drew me more. I stopped taking notes because it drew me in so much more.
Yeah.
And then everything up to, from the beginning of that to up to the point where they hugged it out, I loved every minute of that.
Yeah.
The conversation we just had about that too, like I was itching to talk about that. So I loved all of that. That was my highlight of the entire episode.
I respect the performance of it. The performance was great, and that drew me in as well. But I didn't like the way it ended.
I agree with you that I don't like the way that it ended. I don't like the way that they hugged it out. I would have liked to have, like I mentioned before, Charles say, okay, we'll talk about it more tomorrow. You can leave my room now, roll credits.
And maybe end it at the breakfast table the next day, or maybe end it the next morning. Or sometime after.
When they have okay.
Because then they could still end it positively, but it won't be the way it was done in this episode.
I see where you're coming from, and I like that. But my highlight still stands.
That's cool.
But yeah,
that's cool. What's your low light? My
low light is the over-enthusiastic children, their poor acting.
Oh
yeah. I don't like over-enthusiasm.
I can tell.
Put a goddamn cork in it. All right, I understand that kids are zany and high energy and things like that, but these kids in particular are not believable. No. They are caricatures of real kids, and I get that this is a show, it's a sitcom, it's not supposed to be strictly real life and all that, but I hated them to the point where it took me out of the show. I saw that kid. Douglas coming through. Oh God! Oh God! Oh God! Everybody, pay attention to me. Die.
Yeah.
Die in a fire.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the show would have been better if it was just Charles, the parents, and Lila and Buddy.
If those children didn't have,
or if they were in
any.
It could be in 2 minutes of the whole episode.
Any major speaking roles? No major speaking roles. Just have like a quip here or there. But I don't care about those kids. Their acting and their performances
was horrible,
or were just took me right out of it. I couldn't wait for them to be off camera. The Cobra Head scene where he comes in with the mask on.
Oh yeah,
and he asked for kissing advice. I just nah.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No.
Yeah,
didn't like it.
All right, so okay, so that was your highlights and lowlights, and we have a little special bit for the end here. What do we got?
Well,
someone else in charge, right?
Someone else in charge, or who's in charge?
Right. So what if we were to take Charles out and replace him with somebody else, like Michael Knight from Knight Rider?
So yeah.
So Michael Knight in charge.
Okay? So what would?
So how would Michael Knight have handled this? How would Michael Knight have handled the bit of the date? Would he have told the parents? What do you think would have happened?
That's a good question, Michael Knight. So he would. First off, he would be more suave and smooth about teaching young Douglas how to kiss. And he would have probably been a bit more graphic.
Yeah.
You think?
Yep.
Do you agree with that?
I agree, and I think he probably also would have put a sock on his hand and had Douglas start making out with the sock or something.
Right. And if he found out that Lila's double date had canceled, I believe he would have told her parents, but he would have shooed Buddy aside, like, hey, I'll go to the bachelor party when I'm good and ready. The bitches will be there. Yeah. Michael Knight is coming to get his. But first, let me lock up Lila in the closet. You're not going anywhere.
You think he would have done that? See, I think he would have called one of his many women in his black book and been the double date.
You think he would have blown off the bachelor party to go on a middle school double date with Lila?
Or he would have gone to the same place and, sat at a different table or something, or he would have sent Kit with her.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he would have done something to make everybody happy.
I can see that.
He would have said, okay, you do this, but I'm sending you, he probably would have given her his comm link to wear, and then have Kit be her transportation.
I like that better.
So if something happened, she could just hit the button and call Kit and have Kit, Kit come to her rescue, and then Michael would go to the bachelor party with Buddy.
Okay.
That way, everybody's happy.
All right, I've got one for you.
All right.
Who's in charge? I'm gonna lay a little time paradox on you.
Uh-oh.
Matthew Perry from Friends
Wow.
is in charge.
Wow. Okay. So
Chandler from Friends.
Chandler from Friends is in charge.
Is in charge. Now Ed, the young Matthew Perry, is still in this episode.
So we got like a generational thing going on.
We've got a time paradox going on. Yes.
Wow. Okay. So I have a feeling he may have handled it similarly to Charles. You know, I have a feeling he would have just said, "Nah, don't tell your parents. Just, be home don't screw up. Be home at 10:30 and no one will ever know."
I would agree with you. I think he would have handled everything in the episode the same way.
Right.
I think he would be pushing more strongly for Ed to be the date than Van for obvious reasons.
Of course.
But when it comes to the double date being canceled, I agree with you that he would be like, you know what, just keep this double date under wraps. Don't draw attention to yourself. Buddy comes in. Hey, we've got to go. Night's ticking away, or Chandler. We're only young once. And Chandler's like, hang on, buddy. I'm dropping some life lessons here.
Yeah.
And he passes out life lessons to young Lila.
Right.
Listen, go on this date if you want to go on this date. You like this guy. Go on the date with him.
Yeah.
However, bear in mind that you've got to be home at 10:30 because if they find out,
We're all screwed.
we're all screwed.
Right.
But then everything happens and then they're all screwed.
Right.
But it comes out that Lila says, well, Chandler said that I could stay out late or I could still go on the double date, and then boom, fired.
Right. I was just going to say that would be all the more reason for him to get fired.
Fired, yeah. And then he'd go back to his apartment in New York. I'm like, Joey, what happened? I had a good thing going and I messed it up.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you want to do one more?
I was just thinking, yeah. So, okay. Who else is in charge?
Danny Tanner.
Oh, God.
Is that good? Do you think we should do somebody else?
I think he'd be stricter.
I think he would be more strict, yeah.
He would be stricter, but he would be dishing out the life lessons like a blackjack dealer in Las Vegas. He would, like, every second there could be a life lesson. He could be like, well, and, put his hand on her shoulder. Well, Lila, you know that you really shouldn't wear bright colors on a date because it can make a guy think you really want some.
I like
And then 2 minutes later, well, Charles, you really need to understand that girls are going to want to rebel at this age. Well, Douglas, girls want to experiment with kissing boys, just like boys may want to experiment with kissing girls. Well, buddy, renting cheap tuxes is sometimes good when you don't have a lot of money. And all the time...
For the listeners at home, John has his arm straight out as if he's holding the shoulder and pulling the character in close and giving them a life lesson.
Yeah, because, well... Yeah. So I feel like...
This is an audio medium.
Right, exactly. Well, I feel like if Danny Tanner was in charge, nobody would be going on any dates. They would be sitting at home, or they would be so chock full of life lessons they'd be exhausted and be going to bed at like 9 o'clock at night.
I've got one more if you want to. We can cut this out or we can do it. Zach Morris in charge.
Oh, I knew you were going to do it. Oh, man. I think he would defy all laws, or he would defy all rules.
Because he's of the parents don't understand mentality.
Right. So I think he would...
He wouldn't have made it this far, first off. He would have been fired in the first month.
He would have. However, if he had made it, I think he would have gone on the double date because in age, he would be very close to Lila. So I have a feeling
You're
he
right.
would probably go on the double date, probably even try to steal Lila away from... No, trying to steal the other girl away from Ed and, hook up with the two girls.
Do you think he would scheme on Lila? He would try to... try to get Lila?
Yeah, he would scheme to get as many girls as possible.
Yeah, because
So-
he wants to be the king of the king of the dating scene.
Right, he wants to be the big dick on campus. So he would try to get as much, punani as he possibly could.
Right.
So whatever happens, and then he would just deal with whatever the parents, dished out whenever he got home.
So, Kelly is not in this universe. This is just
No.
the Charles in Charge universe. We're throwing
but
Zach in.
Morris is in charge.
All right. I don't think he would go to the bachelor party.
He would not go to the bachelor party because he would be going where there's more of a likelihood of him to get laid.
But the bachelor party is a place where he would be more as the boom boom room.
But the boom boom room is just a strip club. So the what's the most he's going to get? Maybe a lap dance. He might get a Woody out of it.
But it's Zach Morris. He can talk his way into and out of anything.
I think he's going to have more likely to sink the sub with, 2 girls on a double date than going to a strip club.
Does he have any sense of responsibility?
Can he even get into a strip club?
Oh, at this age?
Yeah.
Zach Morris, he can talk his way into the strip club.
Yeah, he probably has fake IDs or something.
He made fake IDs, or he got some nerd to make him fake IDs.
Screech.
Yeah,
He got Screech to make him fake IDs.
What episode was that? That was the driver's license episode?
No, I forget.
Yeah, I forget too. But but that's he could get into the strip club.
True. But I mean, I have a feeling one mature woman dancer would look at him and be like, "Dude, you're in high school. I'm not doing anything with you."
Hey, his money's green, same as everybody else's.
But there's a difference between them getting paid to dance and getting paid to fuck him.
True, very true. I think he doesn't have much of one, but he does have a sense of responsibility in what's right.
Yeah.
I think to save Lila so she could still go out on the double date, he would find somebody and you know what? He would dress up in drag and take Ed out on the dates and go on the double dates.
Yes.
Him and Lila would go out on the date. She'd go with Van. He would go with Ed, Matthew Perry.
Right.
And they would have the double dates, and Lila would be safe and sound because Zach is there looking out for her. But
would she know it was him?
Hijinks would hijinks would ensue.
That's what I'm going with.
That's what it is.
That's what I'm going with. You fucking nailed it, dude.
Because in the Saved by the Bell universe, he dressed in drag
he's done it a few times.
like 4 or 5 times.
Right. You nailed it.
There
that
it
is
is.
Absolutely it.
There
That
it
is
is.
absolutely it. Tweet us at tunein_next week. Who who else would you want to see in charge? And we'll throw a hashtag on there, hashtag who's in charge. Who would you want to have in charge and why? Throw us some tweets.
Maybe we'll talk about it next week.
Absolutely, because we do want you guys to tune in next week.
Yeah.
Because that's just what we do.
Yeah. I think I've covered everything. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on?
No, man. I think we got it, and I think this was a great episode, despite it not being one of your more favorite episodes to watch. I think we still had some really good moments and good stuff, and a good message overall, despite the fact that it was a little on the heavy side.
Yeah. I mean, despite my not liking the episode, I also liked the episode.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch any more, even ironically, but I'm glad we did this. I'm glad we did this episode. It was really fun, and I loved hashing it out.
Yeah, same here. So if you guys want to hear more of our hashing out different episodes and other things, tune in next week.
And then after that, tune in next week.
Yeah, and just keep on keeping on tuning in.
And tune in.
Next week.
And tune in.
New boy in the neighborhood lives downstairs and it's understood.